Election officials now say the fraud claims about Georgia's election process have no merit whatsoever. The state is set to conduct another ballot audit from last year's presidential election. And a judge has ruled Friday that absentee ballots could be unsealed for parties to examine them for fraud. The exact terms of the audit, they have not been set, but the plaintiffs in the lawsuit are working on a plan to scan and analyze around 145,000 ballots in Fulton County. Georgia's Secretary of State's office now says the ballots in our state have already been audited by hand and no fraud was uncovered.
The claims are they're pristine ballots, that they're unfolded ballots that were just inserted, that there's machine marked ballots. There's no evidence for any of that. Our law enforcement officers from Secretary of State's offices spent literally thousands of hours examining ballots in Fulton County and other counties, trying to track these kind of claims down. And so far, we've seen nothing give any merit to it.
So the goal of the audit is to determine if there were any irregularities in the voting process. The plaintiffs admit even if there were found, it would not overturn any of the election results that have been certified.